Your property is now turned over and ready to be shown. What is the best practices when you show a property? So it is important that you understand we are in a very litigious society. People want to see the negative in you versus the positive in you. So it is important that you have written criteria, and what you do for one, you do for all. Fair housing is real, and people are getting sued on a daily basis, and you do not want to be one of them. So when you have prospects and they're interested in viewing your home, you could show them if they provide an ID or whatever your screening is. But what you do for one, you do for all. So if you require an ID before you show that, property, you're going to show it to everyone that shows their ID is and on time. I think it's important. If you say you're going to be showing from 5 p.m. to 5:15 p.m. and they show up at 5:30, that might not be the applicant that you want. That might be part of your screening criteria, right? So you want to have somebody that is timely, that understands and respects you. So if you do that 5 o'clock to 5:15, you're having multiple people come into your property at once. And if the property is vacant, you might be okay with 5 different parties viewing your property at the same time. That might be your best practice. You're letting everybody come in at once. They could go to the left, they could go to the right, they could do whatever they want to see your property because the property is vacant. And you want to kind of create that urgency because you operate on a first come, first qualified, first approved type of basis. So if that is the best practice for you and that's your strategy, great. If the property is still occupied by the current resident and you're showing the property, in my personal opinion, it is best to do one person at a time. So yes, you could still advertise for those 5 groups to come in at 5 o'clock. However, they need to wait at the door and you do one at a time. Just be careful. If you are doing one at a time, you don't want to take one group to the left and the other group to the right. They might feel that you're discriminating against them because of their ethnicity, race. So what you do for one, you do for all. There is an actual lawsuit for that, peoples. It's crazy, but it is the truth. If you are showing group 1 and you're starting in the living room to the bedroom to the kitchen, then do that for every single group thereafter, one at a time. You're always showing the property to the left. You're not doing some to the left and some to the right. It is imperative that you treat everybody the same and you abide to that fair housing. So when you receive that application and you get the applications, you must have a written application process. This is imperative, especially since 2025, there's new laws about application screening. In the old days, as a mom and pop landlord, you could just screen anybody, run multiple applications, and kind of just pick and choose your best one, even though you still needed to watch out for fair housing. Times have changed. There's 2 ways you as a landlord can approve applications. You could do one, which is what Beyond Property Management does, which is first come, first qualified, first served. So when you receive an application, if you receive 3 groups of applications, the first person to provide all their documentation, meaning their application, photos of their driver's license or any U.S. document or passports or anything like that, and provide 2 months worth of pay stubs or proof of income, they are first in line. Pay that application fee. That first group is first one that we actually screen. They're either approved or denied. If they're approved, they have 24 hours to sign the lease as well as provide their security deposit. If they don't do that, we move on to group number 2. Group number 2, again, must have all their documentation provided to us in order for us to be in position number 2 versus position number 3. I don't care if group number 2 fills out their application maybe a little bit later than group number 3, but group number 3 didn't provide proof of their driver's license or photo documentation of their passports. And so therefore they don't qualify at that time, and they're put in position number 3 as a result. So in my opinion, they have 24 hours to sign the lease, provide the security deposit, and that lease is valid. That is best practice. That is going to save you out of that fair housing what ifs and lawsuits that could arise. So I highly recommend using this strategy and this way of screening the applicants. The other option, which is a lot more riskier, is if you do receive 3 groups of applications and you run all 3 groups of application, and based on your written guidelines, you approve group number 3, you must return 100% of the application fee to applicants group 1 and group 2. The new law in 2025 is you need to give back 100% of their application fees if they have not been approved because you're going in that direction. You choose to screen 3 different groups based on your qualification, your written qualification, you choose the best. That's not really, in my personal opinion, the best way to do that because you're opening up yourself to lawsuit. Somebody could say it's due to their ethnicity or XYZ. It's not worth it. So make sure that if you are using that strategy to have your written qualifications up front to all applicants prior to screening their applications. So what are you screening? Credit check? What is your credit criteria? At Beyond Property Management, we use 680 or above. They must have a 680 or above, and we do that based on FHA and Fannie Mae guidelines. That's a good credit score. If they don't have a credit, maybe they just are old school and don't believe in having a credit card and have never established credit. In my opinion, that's not a bad thing. That's a great thing. Especially, because somebody has decided to pay all cash and, go that direction, as long as they prove that they, make a certain amount of money. And so we average it out amongst all the applicants. An applicant is anybody over the age of 18 that's living in the property must submit an application. I don't care if the husband is the full-time worker and the wife is the stay-at-home mom and she has no income. She still needs to apply because anybody over the age of 18 must apply. We base it on 680 or above. So we take the average and they're going to be approved on the credit. Now, some people look into their medical or their school loans. In my opinion, if they might have a little bit lower of a score due to past due medical bills or past due school loans, that's not really that bad versus having an outstanding utility bill or a judgment. We see a judgment on their application. That's huge. Any open judgments is automatic denial. They're not allowed to rent a property from us because they have an open judgment. They need to provide proof that the judgment's been paid off. You also can look for bankruptcy. You don't want somebody that's going through the bankruptcy courts right now because they could just add your rent to that pile. Then all of a sudden that you can't collect rent and the resident's living in your property. So you want to have, your written criteria that anybody that has an open bankruptcy or one within the last 5 years is automatically denied. The proof of income, we mandate 3 times the amount of rent. I highly recommend that you use 3 times the amount of rent. Let's face it, it's expensive to live in Southern California. It's not cheap. And so we need to make sure that somebody that has a tire blowout or they have a broken arm accidentally, that they're able to cover all their bills. So if you only allow 2 times the amount of rent or 2.5 times the amount of rent, most likely you're not going to be able to accept them because they might not be able to pay their bills later. Even though they should be paying for their shelter first and pay their rent first, that's not always the reality. So 3 times the amount of rent. So if the rental's $3,000 a month, them as a household or he or she needs to make $9,000 a month on a monthly basis. If it's a Section 8 applicant, you need to make sure that you do not say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't work with housing. You can't say that. You can't do that. You have to process their application if they are first come, first serve, or first qualified, or if you do it the other way, you're processing everybody's. And how it would work is you'd get that voucher. And that voucher is saying that they live in the 92008 and they're able to qualify for that $3,000 a month. So they don't need to show that they're making $9,000 a month because their voucher is the same amount of rent. Now, if the rent is $3,500 and that voucher is only for $3,000, the difference is the delta is $500. So they need to make 3 times that. So 500, 500, and 500. They need to make $1,500 a month and provide proof that they are earning that income. That's how you screen a Section 8 applicant. Its amount of the voucher is apples for apples. If there is a delta, then they need to show that proof that they are able to make that income based on your guidelines, that 3 times the amount of guidelines. When you're speaking to the landlord, you don't want to just ask for their current landlord because their current landlord just wants them out of the property. You definitely want to speak to their prior landlord as well. Their prior landlord is going to be a lot more honest. Most people are going to ask for you to fax or email anything over for their landlord verification. Do they have past due rent? Do they have pets, etc.? You also want to have on your application, so credit check, criminal check. If you do criminal check, I'd be very careful with that. You cannot discriminate if they are a criminal. So you can still technically run criminal reports. You just can't deny based on their criminal past behavior. So credit check, criminal check, eviction check. If they have an eviction, automatic denial. But again, you have to have that written criteria. They need to have a 680 or above. You need to make 3 times the amount of rent. You need to be able to speak to their current employer. I mean, it's sad is what it is, that a lot of people want to take advantage of you, the mom and pop landlord. So you need to make sure that you cross your T's and dot your I's, and that careful screening is imperative up front, and that application screening is essential. You do not want to accept somebody because their daughter goes to the same school as your daughter, or they are going through a divorce, or their credit score is not the best. You have to treat it like a business because your asset deserves to be an asset and not a liability. So you want to make sure that, we pay a third-party software to make sure that their driver's license is an actual driver's license, that their pay stubs are actual pay stubs. It's not something that they're getting on Google. We even go one step further where if they're banking at Wells Fargo, we log in to their bank account when they apply using a company called Plaid. And you're able to see, yes, they are making $9,000 a month because I could see their double payments of $4,500 per month. Perfect. That's a great peace of mind. Yes, we can see that they're paying $3,500 in rent currently, and they're paying on the month on the second every single month because, again, we're kind of going in the back end using Plaid to confirm, yes, they do make their monthly rent as to their application. If you do have on your lease or your written guidelines that you don't allow pets and they say they have an ESA animal, you need to be very certain that you're following the proper guidelines, because once they say they have an ESA animal, you need to ask for proof of their doctor's note or their chiropractor note or their church saying, yes, Joe Smo needs to have a service animal or an emotional support animal, and it is valid, signed by so-called doctor or preacher. And there you go. Once you receive that, you verify that. Now their so-called pit bull or mixed breed, it is not an animal anymore. Even if your insurance says no pit bulls, and you could obviously see this mixed breed is pit bull face, that is not an animal anymore. It is now an ESA animal. That is what we utilize. And so that's like saying you have a wheelchair, and so you can't charge pet rent. You can't discriminate and deny that person because they have that mixed breed, aka pit bull, in your property. So be very, very, very careful when you're screening your applicants. I highly recommend that you do first come, first qualified, first served. Make sure that when you're showing the property to always go one direction every single time. Don't tell somebody what the school rating system is. You could post it on your initial advertisement. If somebody's asking if there is like crime in this area or if it's a family neighborhood, don't say, yes, it's a family neighborhood, even if you've lived in the house for multiple years. Be very, very careful what you say, because what you say to one, you have to say to all. But you also have to understand that you can't use the word family or only say that you want to rent to family, because then you're discriminated against other individuals. So good luck. I hope you're able to get that qualified residence, and happy hunting.